Hey, what's going on guys, this is 12th Harbinger and in this video I am going to give you a build guide for Layla. Note that I have made this video based on the leaks and there's a small possibility that it might change. Without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Starting with her talent priority. Prioritize leveling her elemental skill. Then level her burst if you are planning to use her burst for some off-field damage. Moving on to her weapons, for shield build, the best sword for her will be Ni-Lo's signature weapon, Key of Kaj Nisid, as it gives a huge amount of HP percent. It will also give elemental mastery buffs to your party members. Unfortunately, there's no HP percent sword currently in the game other than the Key of Kaj Nisid. You can use Freedom Sworn to buff your team, but it's better to use it on some other supports like Kazuha, who can also utilize the elemental mastery stat. For 4 stars, the Favonius sword will be really good on her, especially at higher refinements. You can also use Sacrificial sword, but Favonius is much better. For off-field DPS build, Key of Kaj Nisid is the best option to buff your team's elemental mastery. But for in teams where elemental mastery is not needed, the weapon ranking is as follows: Primordial Jadecutter, R5 Harbinger of Dawn, Key of Kaj Nisid, Festering Desire, Skyward Blade, Black Sword, Blackcliff. Favonius is still a good option for providing your team with more energy. For artifact options, I think 4-piece Tenacity of Millilith should be Layla's best in slot, providing attack percent and shield strength to her teammates with a good uptime. You can use 4-piece Noblesse set if there are other Tenacity users in your team. With Noblesse set, you might want to get some energy recharge from your artifacts. For artifact stats, HP percent or energy recharge on your sands depending on your weapon, artifact set and stats and teams. HP percent sands is mostly preferred for stronger shield, but you can use energy recharge sands if you want to use her as off-field DPS or spam her burst off cooldown. HP percent or cryo damage bonus on Goblet. HP percent for stronger shield and cryo damage bonus if you want to increase your Layla's damage. For the circlet, go for HP percent or crit rate if you are using Favonius or using Layla as off-field DPS. Try to get around 50% crit rate with Favonius sword to consistently proc its passive. For substats, try to get some energy recharge if you are using Noblesse set or want to spam her burst off cooldown. With her C2 you can get away with less energy recharge as her Night Stars will provide her with more energy. After getting the required amount of energy recharge, for shield build go for crit rate if you are using Favonius sword, HP percent and flat HP. For damage build, crit rate, crit damage and HP percent. For her constellations, I think she will be fine at C0, but if you are planning to pull her constellations, she has some great ones early on. Her C1 will increase her shield strength by 20% and provide shield to your teammates in co-op. Her C2 will provide her with some energy. C4 will give some buffs to your team by increasing the normal or charged attack by 5% of Layla's HP. But the buff gets removed within 0.05 seconds of hitting the enemy. C6 will give 40% more damage to her Night Stars and burst. Additionally, the interval between the creation of Night Stars will be decreased by 20%. So if you want to pull her constellation, getting her C1 should be good enough. I recommend stopping there if you are going to only pull for Layla in the upcoming banner. For her teams, you can use her as a shielder in many teams where you need shield for your main DPS. Do note that in some teams Layla's cryo application might mess up your reactions, for example in Ganyu Melt team. You can skip using her burst to mitigate this. You can use her in mono cryo teams with 2 other cryo characters, preferably Shenhe in one of them and Anemo for the last slot. Without Shenhe this team's performance will significantly decrease, but you can still use this team, with other cryo units like Rosaria and Kea. Layla could be a good and more offensive alternative for Diona in freeze teams, as she can also generate a good amount of cryo particles with also being able to use 4-piece Tenacity set. She can also potentially deal some good off-field damage. You can use Layla with Eula for giving her shields while also buffing her with Tenacity of Millilith set and dealing some good personal damage. Layla can also be a better battery for Eula as she generates cryo energy over time unlike Diona. Lastly, you could use her in fridge teams with Dendro, Hydro and Pyro or Electro for triggering Burgeon or Hyperbloom reaction, or an Anemo character like Kazuha, Venti or Sucrose. Generally with this team you can keep the enemies frozen while also being able to trigger bloom reactions. Since Dendro doesn't react with cryo and it is still a persistent element, you can have multiple enemies affected by both Dendro and cryo at the same time. Once this is completed, you can now use your Hydro unit to not only freeze opponents by reacting with cryo but also cause bloom by reacting with Dendro. Then you can use your Pyro or Electro characters on the Dendro cores to trigger Burgeon or Hyperbloom. You can also use a Nemo character for the last slot to group the enemies and deal damage just by using the Dendro cores as they will explode when there are more than 5 on the field. Layla is not recommended in some fridge teams as the bloom damage will break her shield. To prevent this you can use Electro characters to trigger Hyperblooms. If I missed anything it will be there in the pinned comments. I hope this video was helpful. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to my channel for more Genshin Impact videos. That's all for this video. Thanks for watching.